Welcome to Sober.Coffee, a weekly coffee chat sharing experience, strength, and hope for anyone on the sober road to recovery. You can download Sober.Coffee weekly on all podcast platforms and check us out on Instagram at Sober.Coffee Podcast and on Twitter at Sober.Coffee Pod. To learn more about us and to help support these sessions, visit online at Sober.Coffee. Here are your hosts, two guys on their own path to recovery, Mike and Glenn. Let's join them at the coffee shop.
How come my name's first?
Hey, how come we don't have any muffins today?
I know, we're muffinless.
Forget about your name. Stop thinking about yourself. Think about the muffins.
Wait, isn't it all about me?
It usually is. That's why your name's first. Dude,
good morning, Glenn.
Hey, good morning. Where's the muffins?
I
You
know.
haven't answered. Come on.
I know. Well, we'll wait for our waitress. What do you call a waitress in a coffee shop anyway?
Waitress.
Okay.
So I've been watching what I've been eating lately, right? So I am here this morning, so hungry. It's unbelievable. But, hey, we have coffee. What else do you need, right?
This morning you're watching what you're not eating.
That's exactly right. I'm very aware of it.
Yeah, so, great to be back here.
Hey.
Love what we're doing. What are we doing today? I like this. You just kind of cued me up on it. Give me a...
Yeah, so here's what we got. Normally, as folks know, our sessions last about, between 18 minutes, which
And
is
2
like...
hours.
And 2 hours, right? But we usually take a topic and do a deep dive, but we break our session down into, a section about experience, what we went through, and then strength, right? And as I like to put it, what we did in the sober gym. What tools did we use? Did we learn? How did we do it? And then hope. What kind of result are we getting from it? Or what kind of hope do we expect or continue to expect, from our growth and from putting those tools into motion? So,
Right. And all we got is our own experience. But
yeah, so, there are folks out there who don't agree with everything we say. That's okay. It's our story. It's how we got through this. It's how we look at things, and it's our facts, right? So it's, we're not, as we say in our nice little disclaimer, we're not, professionals. We're not medical professionals, et cetera, et cetera.
and we're certainly not paid.
No, we
We're
are
not paid professionals.
No, we are not. So here's what I was thinking for today's session. So you mentioned early on, right? In fact, I've been in a lot of meetings with you, and I see you with your notebook, right?
Oh, yeah.
Taking notes. And, I always wondered what was in that notebook. I thought you were judging other people in the room and judging their outfits and stuff. But what you were really doing was writing down sober nuggets, right?
Right.
Or if we're in the coffee shop, I almost look at them, as sober espresso shots,
Right.
Like just a nugget of really good stuff. So you have, I don't know the exact number today because it keeps growing, but maybe upwards of 1,000 of them.
About 1,000, yeah.
And they are really deep stuff. So the way I look at it, especially with the Sober.Coffee shop, it's a shot of espresso, something powerful. So what I thought we'd do today, something different. I thought we'd do rapid fire, right?
All right.
Let's line up at the barista, right, at the counter. Let's line up, 6 espresso shots of just ones that we randomly pulled from your list.
Beautiful.
Right? So you actually have that list in a Word document, which I think is amazing. So what I thought we'd do today is just go through all 6. So we are going to try to stick to the 18 minutes. So just think 3 to 4 minutes for each one, right? And as you said, hey, you can almost make a full, podcast episode on each one. Absolutely, right? And maybe we will, but for this, we just want to give a sampling of, some of the deep dives or sober nuggets that are in that pile of 1,000.
Yeah,
okay?
That sounds great. Yeah, because I pick these. None of these are original thoughts. These started out as something I heard in the room, and I thought, "Wow, I really need to ponder that." And then I take it outside the room. So yeah, I'm ready. These are just phrases, sayings that I've heard in the rooms that we can expound on a little bit.
All right, excellent.
All right,
so rapid fire is key, right?
Right.
All right. So the first one
of my favorite.
I have alcoholism, not alcoholism.
I know, right? I love that line.
So what does that mean?
Well, it's like I'm an alcoholic, not an alcoholic was. I don't know. But
Yep.
yeah, so,
I get
so
that.
I have alcoholism, not alcoholism. The way it goes back to that word forever. I don't just have to. Well, first of all, let me back up.
Yeah.
Because ism as defined is like, I love the definition of connected to, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're connected to. A Bidenism would be something he says all the time. You're connected.
Mm-hmm.
Alcoholism, you're connected to it, right? So I look at it as something I had, something I have today, yesterday, and tomorrow. Right, so I don't have wasm. It's not going to go away. This is what I've learned in the rooms. It's not going to go away.
Yeah, but I thought people said, "Hey, I'm recovered." Doesn't that mean it's gone forever, or no?
Well, it says you recovered today. It says you recovered today,
Got it.
I know I was recovered yesterday.
Yep.
But no, that's a great point. The other thing is, I've come to believe, in my opinion, that the alcohol part of the ism was where I was, right? But it was a thinking problem, not a drinking problem. We've heard that phrase before. It was a thinking problem,
Yep.
not a drinking problem. So I'm always going to have this. And we did an episode on the hole in the soul. Always going to have it. Always going to be with me. I just have to be cognizant of that. Does that make sense?
Right. So ism means it's always there. Not was meaning it's in the past. It's handled. You never have to do any more work.
That's right.
Okay.
Right. And just wrapping on that one, awareness of that, right, is vital to right living. I mean, it's vital. You need to be aware of the fact that you are an alcohol. You have alcoholism every day. It's vital.
Yeah, and I really like how you put that, the hole in the soul and addiction. The way I look at it is we have an addiction to fill in the hole in the soul. We're always
Right.
seeking to fill that hole in the soul, and for many years we used external solutions. Right,
That's
we used workaholic.
Sure.
Right, and that's applauded.
Mm-hmm.
Right, we used maybe shopaholic, maybe some gambling, maybe relationships, maybe media and digital entertainment. There's different ways to do it, but through the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, we're learning to fill that hole differently today.
Absolutely. Love it. Alcoholism.
All right, now, one down.
All
Okay,
right.
Second one. Feelings are not facts.
That's hysterical. I get feelings like 10,000 times a day, 10, maybe more. My feelings are hurt. My feelings are, I feel good. I feel like I'm going to win the lottery every time it plays out on Tuesdays and Thursdays,
Yeah, but
None
you
of
didn't
those-
buy a ticket, right?
But I didn't buy a ticket. So the fact is, I'm
That's
not going
awesome.
to win. That's
Right.
Yeah. So, I also believe, I also love the phrase that goes with that one, don't believe everything you think. And a lot of times my emotions, I get an emotion and then I think I think it. I think it like it's reality. And it's not reality at all. What is happening in reality is totally different than where my emotions go. And Glenn, how about it? I mean, 9 times out of 10, maybe 99 out of 100, what you think, what your emotion thought was going to transpire, didn't transpire. What thought was going to happen never transpired, right?
Right. So, I mean, there are some feelings that are facts, right? If I put my hand on a hot stove and that stove is hot, that's a fact,
That's
right?
a fact.
But, it reminds me of a Facebook posting that I saw, and I just, mock it. But you know how things are. If you see it on Facebook, it's true. Right? Not. But the posting that I saw is your thoughts and feelings are valid. Act on them. That is one of the biggest crocks of crap I have ever seen on Facebook. And yet, that reminds me of how I ran my life for 50 years. If I felt one way, I would act on it. If I thought something, I would act on it. And I liked your word awareness. One of the things that kind of woke me up in feelings and facts is, I've gone through process of trying to get in shape, right? And I'll wake up in the morning and, I weigh myself every day. I know I probably shouldn't do that. But I weigh myself every day and I wake up and I'm like, I just feel fat today. Oh, my gosh, I can't believe I feel so bloated. I feel so fat. I feel so sore. This is useless. And I go and weigh myself and I lost 2 pounds. It's just how I feel. And that's just an awareness thing that my feelings aren't always facts.
Right.
Right.
Okay. And doing a 10th step, I know, because I always try and look at these sound bites and which step is it applying to.
Right.
And I'm not always victorious trying to do that, right? Sometimes because an emotion, right? Anyway, I think the 10th step, I think it applies to the 10th step because the 10th step for me, and go back and listen to the episode on step 10, but the 10th step for me is kind of taking inventory and a reality check. That's what I call my 10th step, a reality check.
Right. So I like, I really like that. And what rings strong in my brain is act rightly, do the right thing,
right,
regardless of how you feel.
Right. Absolutely. Beautiful.
All right, good, man. All right, that's 2. Ready for the third one?
I am indeed.
We're getting keyed up on this third shot here, the third espresso shot.
All right, go ahead.
All right. Pain is a great motivator.
Yes. ...
So, but let's tear this apart. There's a guy in a room that says pain is the only motivator, right? And I think we've torn that apart before. Yes, pain can be an absolute motivator, but so is greed.
So is greed. And there's other motivators. Fear is a motivator. Pain is not the only motivator or the greatest motivator, but it is, in fact, a great motivator. But yes, so is greed. My pain for me was it motivated me, like, to surrender. The reason I stutter step there is because it didn't make sense. My pain hurt so bad that I couldn't lift up and do something strong about it. I had to do something weak about it and surrender, right? But it was the pain. It was my pain point that really I have to remember every day. And I do, Glenn. I go back to it every day. I go back to that pain because that it's important for me to replay that pain so that I know why I'm doing what I do today, which is working the 12 steps and working the program.
Yeah, and there were 2 years, and I wish I took notes, but there were roughly 2 years that I worked this program so diligently because I wanted to avoid the pain and consequences of taking another drink.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you think about greed, but at some point, I stopped doing it to avoid the pain, but I kept doing it because I wanted to continue growing. I wanted more of the better life that I was getting through the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous.
I love that.
So I stopped. I don't even think, yes, there's a couple times, once in a while, I'll think, I don't want to relapse because I don't want that pain. But a lot of times I relapse, I think about relapse and I'm like, wait a second. I have so much good stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
If I drink, I'm going to miss out on that continued path of better, of more better.
I think
if that makes any sense.
It absolutely does. And here's what just rattled around this head is it's like a sports team, right? So you play not to lose. You initially, right? You don't want to lose.
You play the game to win, or you play the game not to lose.
Well,
right?
Exactly, and that's a big. But you don't. If a lot of times you take like a sports team in rebuilding years, right? And so it's really painful. It's
like
painful.
The Bears.
That's right. Okay, don't go there.
I didn't say that.
So you're losing, and then you start getting better. Here's my point. One year you win the Super Bowl, you win the World Series, okay? You've now tasted that, and you play to recapture that, right? And so what I'm hearing you say is the same thing that I do. I come into the rooms, and yes, I do remember the pain I came for, but I stay in the room so that I can continue to grow and get more of exactly. So, I like to quote great American philosophers. And
Which one this time?
Well, you said greed. So the great American philosopher from the 80s was Gordon Gekko. And he said something to the effect of, for lack of a better term, greed is good.
Right. So greed is is that one of the 7 deadly sins? Or the 20 deadly sins or whatever.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah. So greed can be bad, right? I used to be in an industry that was full of greed, and the whole thing collapsed, right? So greed is bad. So when I say greed, as a motivator, maybe there's a different word, right? But how I define greed is I want more of this new cool life, right?
Love it.
Learning, growing, more promises coming true. more promises coming true and at a deeper level.
Right. Yep.
So that's how I define it.
No, I'm with you. What motivates me is the same thing, that commitment to kind of the guiding principles of the program and my purpose. I want more of that.
I want more. Okay, great. I'm not sure which one we're on. I think we're on 4, right? Okay. The 4th espresso shot. You ready?
Yes, go.
Step 3, made a decision, not figure it all out.
Yeah, I love that. I remember writing that down. Made a decision. You don't have to have it all figured out. But making a decision, I find myself at a crossroad. I'm either going to make it flippantly and without much mustard behind it, or I'm going to make it like a Supreme Court makes a decision, right? Mm-hmm. So once they make that decision, it's final, right? So I played with the word decision as, okay, I'm going to make that. I'm going to decide for today. Tomorrow, maybe I decide a different way. I think that's a misread. I think that you make a decision, but I love what tailed off there, and that is that we don't have to have it all figured out. We don't have to. The only requirement of step 3 is to make a decision. It's not that big a deal, but it does take commitment. You need commitment behind it.
Right. So as I shared on my step 3 back on the story, folks can go back and listen to it. But, I spent a long time on step 3. I was really focused on figuring it all out. I had a lot of great stuff happen, that since we're doing espresso shots, I'm not going to go deep into it. But then I was reminded, I spent like 18 months on step 3. Mm-hmm. And I was doing a lot of great stuff. But then I was reminded in the rooms that step 3 says, make a decision. Mm-hmm. And I had made that decision a lot earlier in the process. I dove in the deep end of the pool, right?
Right.
And the way I look at learning about turning it over, right? God's will. I had no idea what that was. But what I committed to was, okay, I'm making a decision to figure this out, mm-hmm. right? I'm making a decision to dive in the deep end, mm-hmm. And there's folks out there that are like, oh, I can't figure out this spirituality stuff. Well, what does God's will mean? What does turn it over to God mean?
Yeah, right.
And yet they're sitting up in the bleachers.
Right.
You can't learn how to swim unless you get in the pool.
Unless you get in the pool, right. And, the steps, and when we were referring to, step 3, made a decision, the steps are laid out sequentially. And the first 3 steps are foundational, right? They're really foundational. They represent the main building blocks of the program. So, and again, it closes out with simply making a decision to live a better way.
No, I really like that. And as it's clicking for me, just chatting with you here at the coffee shop, I didn't know, who or what I was turning my will and my life over to, right? So I think that's why I spent a little bit more time on that than I probably should have. But darn it, I made that decision.
Well, I've read the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous in the first 164 pages mm-hmm. several times, and nowhere in there did it demand that you do anything in any framework of time. It is a matter of moving through the steps at the pace that is most impactful to you.
All right, excellent. Okay, 5th one. Ready?
Yes.
The 5th one, the 5th espresso, rapid espresso shot. Your actions speak so loudly, I can't hear what you're saying.
Yeah, I love that one. Another favorite of mine along the same lines is, when people see me in action, am I reflecting sobriety in the best light? Would they want what I have? I love that. So, look, it boils down to, am I walking my walk, or am I walking my talk, or am I just providing lip service to the next person? I don't think they deserve lip service. I think they deserve legitimacy.
Yeah, I love this one because for my entire life, words were the most important thing. And I use them, and I use them very effectively. I studied how to use them. I studied how to speak them. I have a speech communications minor, which you'd never figure out by the way I speak on the podcast. But, I really learned what to say, how to say it, who to say it to, how to pause, everything, right? And yet now, when I live my life, 80% of my life is action-based. I let my actions speak for me. Whether it's in AA or whether it's with my business clients, I really focus on living it. And then, yes, 20% of the time, I do speak to it. But, breaking out to my relationships with my daughters, for years, words didn't matter. It was 100% actions. Dad, we're tired of your words. Your words mean nothing to us. What are you doing?
Right. And that's so strong. In the rooms that I go to, I've been to counselors. When I first came into the program, I went into rehab, and I sat across from pimple-faced PhDs who were trying to tell me about my alcoholic problem.
Mm-hmm.
And, they could have had a bullhorn. They could have stood on the top of that building and screamed out what my dilemma was, what my crisis was, and what the solution was, and I wouldn't have heard them. But to sit in the room or to sit across in a coffee shop with you, across having a cup of coffee, if you whisper, I listen because you walk your walk. There's been, just a quick sidebar, there's been plenty of people who have walked their walk that have laid the path for us in our road to recovery. I think of guys like Bill Wilson, Bill W., who started AA, and I think of Father Martin, and Joe and Charlie. These guys walked their walk, but then their words were used to back it up. Does that make any sense?
No, totally. And early sobriety, when I was in the rooms, people would talk, and I didn't believe anybody else at the time either. I didn't believe my own words. I didn't believe their words. And I thought there were a bunch of sayings, a bunch of mantras, and I'm like, yeah, this is like mind bending, right? Mm-hmm. Mind manipulation. But what I started to really latch on to by going to the same meetings over and over and over again, I could watch people change. I watched their actions in and outside of the rooms, and I'm like, okay, they really believe this stuff because they're living it, they're acting rightly.
That is
so. It's very impactful.
So keep coming back is what I just heard you say, and watch the development.
One of the benefits of keep coming back, right?
Okay, got it.
All right, last one.
Okay,
we're probably really cranked up on these espressos, but here's the sixth one: rapid espresso shot, sober shot. My character defects don't define me. My character strengths do.
Oh, that was such a transformation, and that sure didn't happen on day one of sobriety, but you give it time, you work the program, you work the steps, and that sentence just has so much credence behind it. It was certainly not true for me. It was exactly the opposite when I was out there, right? My defects were magnified, everything about me was just negatively magnified. Again, so what I did was I isolated because I didn't want those character defects to be my persona in public, right? So that led me to deeper isolation. To the hope side of things, I love this because as we work through the steps 6 and 7, and you start working on your character defects and realize which ones are really holding you back from your full potential and living your purpose, you really start exasperating effort into your positive characteristics.
Yeah, so I really like what you said. So as I think about it, I had a lot of character defects. I look at the 7 deadly sins and the 10 commandments, and I kind of use that for a long time as a barometer. And then somebody's like, well, no, there's like 194 character defects. And I looked at that, I looked at the beam, and I'm like, wow, there's a lot of stuff going on here, right? So when we talk about character strengths, first of all, in this program, I had to learn what those strengths were. I had to learn them. I had to practice them. I had to, the way I like to say, I had to learn it, and then I had to live it. Okay. And today, what I have noticed today is there are times in my life where my defects still come up. A lot of times with my wife, some selfishness comes up. I got some really quality snide remarks once in a while that are really good ones. And I just, the defect there is not necessarily that I think them because, thoughts are thoughts, but that I actually say them.
Right.
And then before I say it, I say, Glenn, don't say it, and yet I still say it. So, that's a defect, right? But what I have found is if you start living with your character strengths. Let's just say, and I love the 92% rule, right? Let's just say I work my strengths 92% of the time. At the 8% of the time where I screw up, right, and I'm back in my character defect zone, the people around me who know me and, who see me on a regular basis, they know my intentions. They know that, hey, 92% of the time I'm working on my strengths. 8% of the time I'm going to step in mud.
Sure.
Right? So I have found that I get quick forgiveness in that zone. A lot quicker than I did when 92% of my life was my character defects. So it's different.
To wrap that one up, I jotted down a little note while you were talking there. I was paying attention, of course, but yet I got another add another note in there. What you described to me, at least in my brain, this is how it filtered through, is, I used to look in the mirror and I would see chaos. Now I look in the mirror and I see calm. And that's a result of working the program.
Absolutely.
Right?
That is powerful.
Yeah.
In fact, I think I'm going to put calm on my mirror just to remind me.
Oh, there you go.
I like it, man.
Working the calm. Hey,
all right,
this has been fun.
6 espresso shots.
6 espresso shots.
It's like those shows that eat the chicken wings or the hot sauce. It just gets hotter.
That's right.
So thanks for trying that out. Rapid sober bites. Sober shots of espresso.
Let's do that again. Now we've got a couple off the list. We got another 1,996 to go.
That's right, man. That's awesome.
Hey, thanks,
brother.
Glenn.
Thanks for joining us for today's coffee chat. To contact the show, email us at podcast@Sober.Coffee. If you need immediate help, the AA hotline is 800-839-1686. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline is 800-273-8255. Remember, Mike and Glenn are sharing their own journey on the path to recovery. Any suggestions, medical or otherwise, are their own experiences and should not be viewed as professional advice. See you next week, and remember, there is a solution.